Hello and welcome to the Addicts Anonymous podcast. I'm your host, Jamar. Today's episode 235, and we're going to be interviewing Kell. How you doing, Kell?
Doing well. Thanks for having me.
All right, I'm glad to have you on the podcast. So let's get started here. Like I was telling you before, we start off the same every episode. Tell me about your childhood and growing up.
My childhood, you could probably say it's idyllic. I was raised by a single mom, but our family was very close. We have a small family. My grandparents did a lot of the raising, actually, while my mom worked. I had two cousins, similar in age. So they were more like sisters, really, than cousins. So we all came up together. We didn't come from a household where alcohol was around or anything like that. The family lore, I suppose, is my granddad used to have a couple of beers in the fridge and would smoke a cigar after work. And whenever this guy was old enough to get in the fridge and start to get curious about what the green bottles were, he stopped keeping them at home.
Was he drinking Heineken?
It was Little Kings, actually.
Oh, okay.
Even worse, in my opinion. So there was really no exposure to alcohol or anyone intoxicated, anything like that growing up. I think perhaps my aunt and uncle may have, had a good time, so to speak, on vacations or whatever, but that was never around. So we were kids. We didn't get in trouble. We had good grades. We had a good time. There was no, family struggle. We had.
Yeah, except for my dad was pretty rough on me, but the one thing I can say that I relate to you with is there was never alcohol. I mean, technically, my dad had alcohol in the house, but it was for other people, and it was like hidden away. He never drank, never ever, and neither did my stepmom, and neither does my mom. My mom's never even tried a cigarette.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
she's a good girl.
Yep. Yeah, I think with my family it wasn't so much, it was more setting an example than anything else. I think if they wanted to do something like that, it wouldn't be a big deal. But with the little kids around, we sort of noticed the shift whenever they started to watch their language, when we imitated them and things like that when we got a little bit older. But yeah, it was really good. Small town, Southern Ohio, small tight knit family. Everything was good. My father wasn't in the picture. I only knew bits and pieces about him, and as I got a little bit older, I did find out that he did have trouble with alcohol. So that ended up being part of my story later. Is just
Were your parents divorced?
Yes, they were. They
What
divorced
age were you?
like between 1 and 2.
Okay, so you
Like
don't
that.
even know if, yeah, you never even had your dad in the picture at all.
No, I didn't. No memory, anything like that. Just
Yeah,
pictures.
gotcha. So, did you have a lot of friends growing up?
Yeah, I mean, I'm the kind of guy that can got to get along with anybody. Sense of humor was big in our house. Um, Maybe sometimes too much. We like to rib each other kind of hard. But I met a dear friend of mine that's still a friend that I still talk to all the time. When I was 3 years old. I met another friend of mine who I call my best friend. First grade, 7 years old. We still go out and do things together. Our families get together and have a good time. My aunt and uncle was actually neighbors with his parents growing up. So if I went to one's house, I ended up at the other. It was a good situation. And again, being from a small town, our graduating class was about 115. So I keep in touch with probably 25-30% of those people, at least on social media. I'll say hi, happy birthday, that sort of thing too. Yeah. So friends and community was great also.
So you had friends, a lot of friends, and did you do good in school?
Yeah, I did. I enjoyed school. I didn't like math. I still don't.
Oh, I hate math. I
Yeah.
hate it. I was in I remember I had to go, like, when I was senior, I was
Mhm.
with the juniors retaking the math class. I hated it.
Yeah, I
I
understand.
mean, I'm a
I'm in
very
college.
logical person, and I said to myself, I'm like, when am I ever going to use this in my life? I don't need to know geometry or algebra. It just doesn't make sense to me unless I'm going to be like an engineer or a scientist. Then you need to
Yeah.
have those numbers where you can do quick calculations. But yeah, I feel like that's one of the problems with schools. They kind of focus on teaching kids the wrong things sometimes. I mean, obviously you need math, but only to a certain degree, depending on what your hopes and dreams are.
Right. I agree. I remember learning algebra and doing poorly. I don't remember learning how to balance a checkbook or how to do taxes, things that are applicable later on. Um, but other than that, school was good. I was always an art kid. We did well in school, me and my cousins, my family, especially my My grandparents are really great at positive reinforcement. So anytime we would do well, they wouldn't gush, but they would bring it up, or they would do a little something, or we'd get an extra of this or that, some toy we'd been wanting, something like that. So we did well for ourselves, but then we did well also because it feels good whenever your family praises you for being good. So we weren't the kind of kids that liked to blow off school or get in trouble or anything like that. You call us goody goodies. I guess that's true.
That's good. It's a good year. So how'd you do? And you said you enjoyed school. You did well there. Had a good childhood. So you said you were exposed to beer from your grandfather. What age
Right.
was that first? I think, did you say 7 or 8?
Yeah, that maybe even a little before that. I mean, this would have been a point where I was, getting old enough and strong enough to open the fridge, realize that, okay, that's something that granddad drinks, so I'm going to do that. It was just an imitation thing by a
Did you
child.
take one and drink it?
Yes, and I was busted at least one time with, and I think it may even been an empty one, but still, I was, trying to get
Yeah,
whatever I
whatever.
could. Yeah.
How did you feel the first time you had a sip?
Well, see, that I don't remember as far as alcohol. What I remember specifically as far as intoxication, the first thing I remember was when I was 5 years old and I had my tonsils out. And I've told this story before to my mom, and she doesn't remember. My best friend, or one of my best friends, doesn't remember. But it was around Halloween, and I got anesthetized, had my tonsils taken out, so I was groggy for the next couple of days. And when a friend came over for Halloween and said, "Hey, we're going to go trick or treat," I said, "No, I'm kind of tired. I'm going to ask my mom if she'll take me back to the hospital and get me more of the medicine that makes me sleepy."
Hmm.
So thinking back now, like, was that the first time I equated ingesting something with feeling good or feeling better? And I neglected hanging out with a friend for that instead.
It's good that you self-analyze that, because that could very well be true. That's a good case of, like you said, just wanting to change your mentality or how you're feeling. It's a
Right.
big deal. I mean, for me, my first one wasn't drugs. My first thing that made me feel different was cookies. I would get a sugar rush, and I
Absolutely.
was a young kid, and I was like, oh, I feel a little good. I have 5 cookies. What happens if I have 10? And I
Yeah.
got addicted to eating junk food. And it's still something I struggle with this day, because I also have addiction with food issues. My main thing is drugs and alcohol, but I also have food issues as well.
Certainly. I can relate to that too. I think caffeine probably for sure.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
it was with me my whole life. I got a Coke Zero sitting here now, and caffeine is
Diet Coke.
perfect, perfect.
But
Um,
yeah, I mean, that's another thing. Caffeine, like you said, I'm actually trying to quit that. So I'll drink a Diet Coke, but I'm not doing it like I used to. Caffeine, I got addicted to, where I was doing 4 or 5 hour energy shots a day, like
oh yeah,
routinely. And it was every single day. And I was like, this is no good. You're too addicted to caffeine. So cut it back a little bit. See if you don't need it. So usually during the day at work, I don't drink any caffeine, but at night when I get home, I'll have a glass of soda.
right. This is more of a dessert kind of thing almost, or
Exactly.
yeah,
You had a
yep,
good day. You my reward.
sure. I definitely go through yeah, a couple three, as we say in Southern Ohio, a couple
Couple
three
threes.
yeah, a couple three cokes, two or three, a couple three cokes, coffee in the morning. That's something I can do without if I want to. I don't really have any negative effects without it, other than just I want one. Um, but yeah, definitely growing up, the full sugar, not diet full on cokes. I mean, 12 pack every couple of days. We would just suck those down. So I'm glad I got out of that habit. I don't know when I
Yeah.
switched to diet and then eventually when the zero came out, but probably my 30s.
Does Coke Zero still have caffeine, right?
Yeah, definitely still has caffeine. Just doesn't have
The
the
sugar.
stuff that makes you fat. Yeah, the sugar and all that. I'm sure the sweetener isn't the greatest for you, but
Yeah,
I'm
they say that aspartame stuff. Aspartame, is that how it's pronounced?
aspartame, I think.
Oh, aspartame. Yeah, they say that's not good for you at all. That's what they
Right.
use.
Yeah, I'm admittedly in just kind of a comfortable denial about that. I'm still on the coke,
It's a
still
good
on the
way to put it.
Coca-Cola syrup. Yeah. So
Comfortable denial. I like that.
yeah, we'll get to that one eventually. So
So you first started real young drinking
mhm.
grandpa's beers. When was the first time you actually partied? Like you said to yourself, you know what? This does this to me, and if I drink more, I can get hammered. When was that first time, you think?
I remember specifically, it would have been 1993, the summer of 93. I was 15, and a couple of my good friends were in the grade ahead of us and had already started having parties, going to house parties. We were out in the country a bit, so there were bonfires, camping parties, that sort of thing. And I grabbed one of those friends and I said, tonight, Saturday, we are going to go drink. I'm going to go drink into excess. I'm going to see what all this is about. Um, at this point, I knew that my father had a problem with it, but at that age was kind of, well, he did doesn't mean I will. I want to see, maybe somewhere in the back of my mind, I was trying to relate to him. Why did he enjoy this so much? But those are all thoughts that came up later, way later. But it's just, we're going to go out tonight. We're going to drink way too much. I'm going to find out what this is about. And we went hard. I mean, just whatever everybody brought, anyone with a fake ID brought everything. These parties were big. There'd be 30 to 50 people. Excuse me. These, the Saturday after the Friday night light football game, when everybody was off and had nothing to do, we would all gather and we partied hard. And that was my first, big drunk, though. I don't think I blacked out, but that was my first hangover, the next morning, realizing there were consequences to it. And I remember vividly people were going to sleep and I wanted to keep going. And I remember that next morning when people had hangovers and I said, I feel like crap, but I want to do it again next weekend.
Do you remember how you felt when you first got drunk for the first time?
It was exhilarating to a point, and then it was almost trance-like. I mean, we were out in the woods, with a big fire with everybody, and I got really into that groove where, oh, you guys are all my friends. I love all you guys. I'm comfortable here. I'm proud of where I'm from. Like, it was life affirming, as scary as that sounds. I felt bulletproof. I felt confident. I felt any social anxiety was gone. There wasn't much class strata where we were. Everyone sort of got along with everybody, but it's like we were there with the jocks, the cool kids, the art kids, the music guys. Everybody was getting along, and like, why can't we just do this all the time? So yeah, I felt comfortable. I felt like I belonged. I felt like I could relax. I felt powerful and funny and handsome. All those things that lack of inhibitions give you.
The term I remember Bill W. used, he felt like he had arrived.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I am 15 and I am here now. Look at me.
So what happened as far as progression?
That ended up being, I did that anytime it was possible. We would do those things on weekends. If a party wasn't happening, we had a couple of friends that could get IDs from their older siblings or fake IDs or whatever, and just get whatever we could. Sometimes I would call those outings successful, as in we went and we had a good time and there weren't many consequences. We didn't really get in trouble. I know some parents knew what we were doing, and as long as we didn't get in trouble or get hurt or anything like that, they didn't bring it up. But there were a couple times where we really overindulged to what was, at least me, was probably a scary amount. I mean, I remember drinking so fast and so much. Everyone else is starting the party. It's 8 p.m. and I got to lay down, and I didn't wake up till the next morning. It escalated quickly from this is fun to I have to do this as fast and as hard as I can to get to where I want to be or how I think I want to feel. That feeling of being comfortable and normal and accepted and the life of the party didn't last long for me. It became a need quickly. If I'm going to be at this party, I need to be as drunk as possible, ASAP. It immediately stopped working for me in the way I wanted it to very soon on.
Wow, it happens very young. It's amazing how we get hooked so young, and it set us on a trajectory that we never expected.
Right.
So what did you do once you graduated high school?
High school, I went to college for a year. That was away from home, I should say. I went to school for a year, and that was a party situation that was pretty tame. I didn't indulge as much because I had a fear of failure, of leaving home and not doing well in school and this and that. So I I did indulge, but not like I did in high school. And it didn't cross my mind. It's something I was doing consciously. It just was organically. I was, pulled back a little bit for those reasons. I wanted to be successful. Um, because of personalities, insecurities, I sort of gave up after that year of school and I went back home. And I ended up getting a job in broadcasting.
Oh,
And
cool.
in my local
What kind
town.
of job?
Radio. I was on the radio for
Oh, you were on the
many.
radio. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
it's on the radio for many years. So when I
What kind
came
of
back,
station?
I was a rock and roll station. So I was a guy in his late teens and the only rock and roll station in town. So you could probably make the leap here to where that's going. That is uh, a party encouraged environment. Uh,
Yes.
so I came home and hit the ground running with that. Luckily, I worked mornings, so it was kind of hard to maintain, a 2 3 a.m. bedtime all the time. But there was lots of day drinking going on there. There was a couple of bars right across the street that we called the annexes, like our station annexes. We would go over there and have several drinks for lunch and come back and do whatever work we had to do and go home. So daily drinking was a normal thing. Less binging at that point, overdoing it at that point, but being intoxicated or having a buzz, whatever you want to call it, most of the time became normal. And that was for the next 20 years, almost 15 plus years, just daily drinking with excess here and there, that it became very normal.
Yeah, it sucks how quickly it could progress.
Yeah.
And especially you being in that environment, like you said, that must have been so hard because I know I'm a musician, so I know the whole rock and roll scene. And like you
Right.
said, live young, live fast, die young, leave a good looking corpse.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. You're bulletproof. You're praised for it. In that kind of job, you don't buy your alcohol most of the time. If you go to a place, hey, it's that guy here, have 5 shots for free, and you're not going to say no. So, obviously I could have said no, and it hadn't occurred to me at that point that something was wrong. It hadn't occurred to me at that point I was overdoing it. Friends of mine were doing the same thing. Coworkers were drinking at work. We had the guy that worked middays, was very well known for having a pint of something in his pocket and a Diet Pepsi, and that was lunch for him. It was never mentioned, never, looked down upon. Nothing. Oh, it's just him. That's how he does. That's how he is. Um, but again, just every day, we would drink and then come home every day. I did that for about 5 years, a little over 5 years, and decided to come back to Cincinnati, where I had gone to school for that year. Came back up here with the promise of a broadcasting job that didn't happen. When I got here, it wasn't here. So we sort of got minimum wage jobs. Me and 3 other pals of mine came up here, and we got minimum wage jobs until we found, landed on something good. And we were broke and had nothing to do. So that was another year and a half of just constant drinking every day. 2 of the guys that came up here with us got factory jobs, so they were legitimately tired, injured, beat up at the end of the day, and they would come home with a 12 pack, and I thought, well, yeah, that's convenient. I'll just start drinking a 12 pack a day too, trying to commiserate with them when they've gone and done all this hard work, and all I've done is work a cash register for 8 hours. So I used it as an excuse, whether I realized it or not. So that got into 12 pack a day was normal. And that happened for another several years. And at this point, no consequences. That's always been, for the longest time, had been the underlying thing for me is no consequences. I could do all this. I didn't get sick. I didn't get in trouble. I didn't lose any jobs. I didn't lose any friends. I've never been confronted by any downside to know that it was a problem yet.
Yeah, that's one of the problems also is when it becomes normalized, especially when it's with friends and stuff. It just becomes part of the routine, like it's no big deal.
Mm-hmm. Especially when your friends can set it down, and you can't. If one guy would finish his 12 pack, the other guy wouldn't. I would finish mine. I would finish whatever's left in the fridge, and there'd be a confrontation in the morning. Hey, I didn't say you could take that. Oh, well, it's going to pay you back. Justify it however I wanted to. If it's around, I wouldn't stop, and I didn't see it as a problem.
So
It
you
didn't
drank till
feel
you
that
blacked
long.
out?
Yeah, drink till it was gone, till I would legitimately go to sleep. Yeah, or I would just wake up and not know how I got to bed or the floor or the couch, wherever. Yeah, yeah,
I rem-
blackouts became normal starting in like my late 20s.
yeah, I remember those days of passing out on the couch, passing out on the floor, not realizing what happened. So what kind of alcohol was your poison? Was it liquor or a beer?
It's always beer, for whatever reason, has always seemed to get me more intoxicated than liquor. I
Really?
enjoyed, yeah, I enjoyed liquor. I drank plenty of whiskey and everything, whatever you throw at me. Um, and that would, would get me drunk, but it was a different type of feeling. Like beer would let me become out of control where liquor wouldn't. And I've never been able to, figure that out chemically or whatever the difference is, however it um, metabolizes in my body, but it just didn't do the same thing. So it was always beer, plus liquor's expensive. You can get a 12 pack for $4, back in those days. So
Yeah.
most of
It was the opposite for me. I stuck to the liquor because I figured it got me drunk quicker because I can do
True.
3 shots in like 5 minutes. I
Oh
really
yeah,
couldn't drink 5 beers in 3 minutes, whatever it was.
yeah. Yeah, I guess that was, I don't want to call it a skill, but yeah, that's something I could do. I mean, 4, 5, 6.5 hour was no big deal, and then you were kind of cruising after that. Sounds like what you're talking about.
Yeah.
The old the comparison about the airplane that uses most of its fuel to take off, and then once it gets to cruising altitude, you don't need much.
There you go. I never heard that comparison. That's a good one. That's a
Right.
good one.
Yeah, it takes a lot to get there, and once you're there, you can just kind of cruise. Yep, but that was the habit for the longest time, until we got, I guess what you want to call adult jobs or big boy jobs. I ended up getting into broadcasting in Cincinnati, and that was in 2004. Yeah, 2004, and stayed in that company and that environment until 2017. That was a long time.
So at what point did you say to yourself, I got a problem?
I had gone back to school for to learn electrical work. I wanted to move up in the business. So in radio, I had been a performer forever, been a host forever, and then I moved over to IT just for some more security and some more money. I kind of saw how the industry was going, where DJs were not the people with the PhD and cool they used to be. They just kind of read cue cards, and I wanted to get out of it. I'd always had a proclivity for IT, for computers. Was a tinkerer my whole life. Um, so I got into IT, and then was thinking about moving over into engineering, which was more heavy duty, unfortunately math, but
Yeah.
but yeah, more electrical work and mechanical work and stuff. So I went to a like an adult learning place here in Cincy that had a year-long certificate, and I would work from 8 a.m. to 4:30. I would have to be at that school by 5:30, and then class was from 5:30 to 10, Monday through Thursday. So that was my schedule, 8 a.m. to 10:30 p.m., Monday through Thursday. And I would still drink the same amount of beers or liquor on those days that I would have if I had not gone to class. So, for an example, if I were to drink a 12 pack on Friday night from say 5 p.m. to 1 a.m., if I only had between 10 p.m. and 1 a.m. on the nights when I went to class, I would still fit those 12 in. It was ritual. It was something that had to be done. I thought had to be done, or my day wasn't over. I wasn't going to sleep. I wouldn't get any sleep, and I wouldn't wake up in the morning. It was part of my daily routine, like eating, brushing my teeth, taking a shower, something like that. Whatever's in the fridge is going to be drank and gone before I can go to bed. Didn't matter how much time I had. And when I started talking to some people at school about that, because one guy had finally said, like, man, do you just live in a barrel? Because we can smell you. He's the first person that ever called me out on anything. And it turns out that he was in the rooms. He was a 12 stepper. And just, I guess, out of habit or empathy or whatever, said, like, are you okay? And I was like, well, maybe not. And I think that was probably the first time. So I was in my mid 30s. I was like 35 before it occurred to me, like, I know I was prolific and, good at it. I was a good drinker. But maybe this is worse than I thought. And that was the first time I stepped back and went to the doctor and did some blood work. And he said, you're not in trouble yet, but you're headed there. So that's the first time it occurred to me something is up. And I kind of thought, wow, maybe I met this guy for a reason. So it's the first time I'd ever pondered a change or got any sort of fear or acknowledgement or confrontation about it.
So once you got that feeling that you might have a problem, what'd you do about it?
Now, at first, I didn't do anything. At first, I thought about it. Well, I drank on it, of course. So we get back into that headspace when we're drinking. We fear nothing. That's fine. I'll finish school. Maybe I'll get some more money. I'll have some more time off, and I can, find a good time to wean off, or find a good time to quit cold turkey, or I made fantasies about finding a good time to do it when it would be easy, and none of those things ever came to pass. I just kept at my regular schedule, and then I ended up having a medical event that started to change everything. I had a particularly overzealous night of drinking, if you want to put it that way, and me and my girlfriend at the time had gone to the movies, and we're in the era now where you can buy drinks at the movie theater. There's a bar in the movies. So I'd ordered a couple drinks at the bar, had those, sat down, waited on the movie, and got sick. Just had to run to the bathroom and be sick. I ended up sleeping on her shoulder through the rest of the movie. Woke up the next morning in my bed. She had gotten me to bed. I don't remember any of it. And it was about 8 hours after my last drink. I had a withdrawal seizure. It took 8 hours. So that's the boat I was in at the point. Was it only took 8 hours for a withdrawal seizure to happen, and I ended up being in the hospital for almost a month.
Wow. How come they kept you so long? What kind of symptoms or stuff was happening with that? I've never had that happen to me. Even I was lucky. I went right to rehab when I was detoxing.
Right. I had never given myself enough of a break to know, like, in the morning I would have, the shakes and disorientation and anxiety, normal things that people get with, maybe not the shakes, but people get with a hangover, but intensified by 1,000. I would wake up every morning in a panic before my first drink. I mean, absolute panic, before I self-medicated. So once I went in the hospital after the seizure, I had aspirated some fluid into my lungs. So that's pneumonia. So they had to treat that. I wasn't breathing on my own after that. So I was on a ventilator for a while. And then to bring me down without any more seizures or other neurological complications, I was on benzos. I was on propofol for a couple of weeks. I mean, propofol is infamous for being the drug that killed Michael Jackson.
I was just about to say that. Literally just about to say that.
That's the one. It's also infamous if you have the pleasure of having a colonoscopy. It's what they give you because it puts you to sleep briefly, and then you wake up without the memory side effects of benzos, like Valium or something like that. So they had me on that daily and weaned me off. And I remember every morning they woke me up and asked me simple questions. Where are you? Who's the president? Do you know what the date is? Do you know who people in the room are? And at first, no, didn't know any of it. Took weeks for me to finally get it back, until one morning I woke up and I kind of looked at my mom, who had been there the whole time. I was like, I think I'm back. I think I understand what's going on now. And that took almost a month. So whatever was going on with my body, they felt it necessary to keep me asleep that whole time, so that my body didn't react, and just shut down. Luckily, I don't have lasting effects from that other than psychological. Of course, that's a heavy deal to live through. But didn't end up being my bottom, if you can believe it.
So what was your bottom?
Bottom came a little while later. It's kind of a skip ahead situation. I ended up meeting. I should backtrack a little bit. I ended up meeting up with that friend after I got out of the hospital, and I did start 12-step. I did start going to meetings after that, and ended up being sober for quite a while. It was almost 2 years. So this is between 2017 and 2019, and was doing well. I don't think I was a dry drunk at any point. I was working steps. I was working on my sobriety, was doing well. And then at the end of that, in 2019, I used the end of a relationship as an excuse to take a drink. I know we hear that a lot. And so took a drink, stopped going to meetings, stopped talking to my sponsors, stopped doing any work. And so I was out for another year, almost year and a half, something like that. At the end of that year, I would consider that era, whatever, of my drinking was my bottom. I had bought a house with another woman by then. That's where I'm living now. And it was to the point where I couldn't hide the beer cans anymore. I couldn't hide the musical trash can that we call it, with all the clanking bottles and cans. And we go out to the road, and I was literally going to the store buying plastic bottles of alcohol, like fifths and pints, and would put them in my belt and walk in the house with them, and knew how to turn and whatever, and I could sneak them in the house without her noticing. And to me, that's the most embarrassing thing I ever did. I was like, you're smuggling in alcohol for yourself in your pants. Like, come on, dude.
It's amazing the shit we'll do to get away with it.
Yeah, absolutely. I was hiding things in the drop ceiling in the basement. These are all things I had never done during my most prolific, lengths of being messed up, being drunk for years and years and years. I was always very upfront about it. Didn't care what anybody thought, but at the same time, most people never called me out on it, so I didn't need to. And then, the lady I'm with now, she cares, and she is a strong person that says, you can't do this. We're not going to work if this is not going to work out if you can't get clean. You're going to die if you don't get clean, and I'm not going to stand around and watch. I'm not going to enable you. And that ended up being part of what I needed. So yeah, that embarrassment. And then I was drinking so much at the time, I was passed out on the floor and couldn't get up. And she ended up calling an ambulance on me one time. She's like, I'm not going to try to pick you up. It's like, you can go to the hospital and deal with yourself. She was done. And that hospital visit is what turned it around to the point where they said, we're going to let you go, but there's this place you can go if you want to go. And I took that option. And that's when I went into 30-day treatment. And that's why I've been sober since.
How did you find treatment? What did you think of it when you first entered the rehab?
The first thing is, I can't believe I'm here. And it
Yep.
was, yeah.
Me too.
Right. I can't believe I'm here. I remember crying the first night.
Yep.
I just go, yeah, I can't believe this. It's come to this. Like, I know I need this, but I can't believe I need this. I got lucky because I say lucky. I didn't get lucky. I didn't have a roommate for the first couple of nights. So I kind of got that out.
We sound like the same. The first few nights I did not have actually all the time I was in detox for the 7 days, I didn't have a roommate. When I got to residential, I had a roommate.
Okay, there we go. I had detoxed in the hospital, so I went straight to residential. I got in there and for a couple of days, it's like, okay, I can lay here and wallow for a little bit. Went to group, didn't do much, just was a body in group and the activities that were required of us, and kind of slept. And then, got better, got to the point where I could eat, started talking to people. They helped me get acclimated to don't want to say the curriculum, but the schedule. So I got to the point where I was getting up by myself, feeding myself, talking, getting more human, getting back to normal after the first couple of days or a week. And then I started to feel better about it. Some things, how do I put it? I started getting into the idea of being involved with it. It's like, I'm going to do this. I know I have to do this. Physically, I'm safe now. So let's take this time off to really work on me. Like, I've never taken this much time off. During my work life, I wasn't a vacation guy. It was, I drank every night. What did I have to need a vacation for? I had one every day. So I decided to go all in. And I had called my old sponsor that I'd lost track of. And luckily he said, didn't yell at me like I expected him to or anything. He just said, "Welcome back. Glad to hear from you. You know, we'll get back to work. No problem. Let me know when you're out." So that was great. I got family on board, and I really went for it for the first time, and it worked. It's continuing to work.
That's great. That's really good. I mean, so when was it? How long ago?
That was in I was in from September 21 to October 21.
Okay,
I was
so
in there
pretty
for 30,
recent.
yeah, I was in there for 30 days. Um, One thing that I really remember, that I still talk about with, I still see a therapist too, um, was I was writing my name on things. I'm writing my name on pamphlets and stuff, worksheets and stuff you do in there. I remember looking at my name and just being disgusted. Like, I am so tired of that guy. It's one of the things that got to me where I was like, I really want to change. I looked at my name, I was like, I'm sick of that dude. I'm sick of who he was. I'm sick of how he acts. I'm sick of how gross he is with alcohol and how he treats people when he's messed up. Like, I want to look at my name on something and remember when I was younger, when I was vibrant and happy and had a future and was good to people. Like, I want to be that guy again. And I really internalized that. And that helped too. And I expressed that to my family, and they agreed that, they missed that guy. And then they also admitted some things to me too. Like, my uncle says, well, I'm a workaholic. That's how I deal with my stuff. I might take another shift at work if, me and your aunt are on the outs or something, or if I'm feeling stressed. And, my cousins, too, they're like, yeah, we work, that's how we all deal. And we've all talked about that. And I'm sorry we didn't share that with you. It's like, you have this proclivity, perhaps part of it's physical from your father, but also you started drinking and you latched onto it where they didn't. So they're like, don't think you're any different from the rest of the family in that way. It's manifested in you differently.
That must
So
have been comforting.
it changed everything. I mean, that was a weight on my shoulders that I didn't realize I had. I mean, specifically my uncle, because with my dad not being around, my granddad and my uncle were father surrogates. And for him to say, you're no different. You're just dealing with this thing in a different way. We're a group of people that have the weight of the world on our shoulders. That's just our type of personality. And you're dealing with that in a different way. You tried to party it away, or get intoxicated to not feel that. And we're not going to show you our way. We don't want to turn you into a workaholic, but we're here for you. We don't blame you. We don't hate you. We understand, now seeing, we understand better now what you're going through, because they got, invested in reading, Al-Anon literature and stuff like that. And, yeah, knowing they were here for me, and them telling me I wasn't so different when I felt so outcasted for not having dad around. And yeah, it was a huge weight that I didn't know I had, and it helped tremendously.
So how's life been since you got sober?
Better all the time. I know we hear that a lot. Um, Health has definitely been better. I mean, just, at a base level, health has been better. I'm not afraid to go to the doctor. He's not afraid to. Um, every so often, he kicks me in the pants, literally, just to remind me. I'm a grown man, and he's not way too much older than me, but I'll go to the doctor's office, and he's like, how you doing with the drinking? And I'll say, oh, I've had this many months clean, or this many. He's good, and he'll kick me in the pants. He's like, don't forget that. So it's a joke we have. Health has been better. I've been with a job now going on 2 years. I was struggling with employment there at the end, as many people do. Couldn't stay sober, so one job got outsourced, and I used that as an excuse to drink. And then I got another job I didn't like. I used that as an excuse to drink. So I've had steady employment for the past couple of years. I'm in a great relationship with a woman. We've bought a house. She has a kid, and he and I get along great. We play music together. He's a music major, and I'm a guitar and bass player. So
Oh, cool.
yeah, we have that to talk about and relate to. Spiritually and recovery wise, things are good. 17 months now, going on the 18-month milestone. Fingers crossed. If I keep at it, and I fully intend to, I just say that jokingly, but coming up on 18 months, and I'm in school for addiction studies. I actually finished an addiction studies certificate program, and I'm going to finish my associate's degree, hopefully go on to my bachelor's. And I've actually been hired to do some casework at the treatment center that I attended.
Oh,
So
cool.
yeah, so that's really full circle for me, is I get to go back and contribute there, because that place really did help save me. And participating in, I'm an AA guy, so participating in that is keeping me healthy. Um, they say works if you work it, and it's true. I make sure to go to meetings. I remind myself that I'm being irresponsible if I don't. Um, so yeah, life is just it's been better in every way, and I don't miss it, and I don't want to go back ever. I don't even go down the beer aisle at Kroger. I just don't want to have any association connection to it, reminder, at all, other than to work with people that are just trying to get healthy. That's the only reminder I accept now.
Awesome. I'm glad that you're doing better. It's 17 going on 18 months. It's a big deal. It's a real big deal.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Again, it's the me now versus the me before. I mean, I will take this guy all day. Life isn't boring. We have a great time. We go out and have fun. We do physical things. We can go downtown at night without having to worry about, oh, how am I going to get home? We attend events, concerts, things, and remember them. That's new.
Yeah.
That's a good thing. Yeah, I recommend to anyone that's even considering, maybe I'm having a problem with this. I know addiction is addiction, but alcohol is a little different, because you can't buy street drugs at the corner gas station, right? And it's not celebrated on TV and sponsoring sporting events. So it's a little bit different. So it's kind of more automatic. Like if you're doing hard drugs, oh, you have a problem. It takes a little more time for someone, I think, to be drinking alcoholically before someone says, oh, you have a problem. It isn't as obvious as quickly, if that makes sense. Or
No, it
maybe,
does.
yeah, maybe isn't acknowledged as quickly. So if you're on a path where you're using drugs and you think you want out, if you're on a path of alcohol and you realize that you're not drinking like everyone else, that it's becoming a necessity, there's absolutely a way out. There isn't only one path. There isn't only one person or group of people that can help. You can reach out in every direction you want and find someone that can be beneficial. You can find a philosophy or a program or something that can be beneficial to help you get healthy. And it can align with your ideals, your philosophies. If you're a religious person, you're a faithful person, you can find things to align with that. Try not to let anything stand in your way because of this. Well, I don't want to do this group because they pray. I don't want to do this group because they don't pray. Anything you can find to make it contrary or give yourself an excuse to not reach out to somebody, try not to. You'll find someone that'll help. You'll find someone that'll bend over backwards to help. I can guarantee it. It happened to me, and I see it all the time.
That's some good advice. I appreciate that. That was actually one of my last questions. If you had any advice for people watching or listening, but you beat me to it.
Yeah, that's it. Say it out loud. Even if you're considering it, if you're not afraid or in a bad place, if you're just saying, maybe I should make a change, say it out loud. Tell somebody else. Ask what they think. So there's a joke, I overuse it, but it's every family has an alcoholic, and if your family doesn't have one, it's you. So everybody, maybe not everyone, but a lot of people know someone, they know an alcoholic, they know an addict, or they know someone who knows someone, or they know someone who is a therapist, or someone in that arena of healthcare that you can talk to. They're not difficult to find. If you want to go 12-step, it's not much easier to find than the front of the phone book, if that's what you want to try.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you for coming on the podcast today. How do you feel?
Yeah, I feel good. Yeah, this was fun. It's an interesting way to share. But you and I talked a little bit about, we share our stories all the time, and this is definitely different. And being a radio guy, I haven't been on a microphone this long.
There you go.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, thanks for letting me tell my story. Um, if anybody's again, if anyone's struggling, just reach out, just say it out loud, say it to somebody else. You'll get help. I promise. And I say that from, I back that up with data. That's not just an opinion.
No, absolutely. You're right about that. There's a lot of information that will show you that.
Yep.
So did you have anything else you wanted to throw in?
No, I think that was it. If anything else, if we could go back just real quick to where I talked about having that seizure, that was a big deal. And I didn't know that was something that could happen. So if you are at a point, or if someone is at a point where they think they want to quit, alcohol and benzodiazepines are extremely dangerous to quit cold turkey. If you are a daily drinker or a daily user and you think you want to stop, you will be better for just telling your doctor than to think you're Superman and invincible, or Superwoman and invincible, and trying yourself. Because I quit cold turkey involuntarily. I didn't plan to, and it almost killed me. So if you're a daily drinker, heavy user, definitely seek medical help before anything else. That would be my serious as a heart attack advice to someone that's thinking about getting clean. That can be,
Yeah, that was one of the things that I didn't know. And I remember when I was going to rehab, I spoke on someone on the phone to do like an intake interview. Mm-hmm. And they specifically said to me, we're not telling you to get hammered, but don't stop drinking till you get here.
Yeah. Yeah. I had heard that myself. It's funny to think, okay, I'm going to stop poisoning myself, and that's actually going to be dangerous, but it's true. Yeah. Biochemically, your body changes, your brain changes. The alcohol and the drugs, they provide benefits for you, unfortunately, provide benefits for you chemically to the point where your own body stops producing those. Serotonin levels drop because you're getting it synthetically, or not synthetically, but you're getting it unnaturally. You're ingesting it instead of creating it. So whenever you take that chemical away, which suppresses, all of these things, all of these goings on in your head, your brain just goes, dump all of it. We have nothing to suppress this, so we're going to fire on all cylinders, and your body doesn't know how to react. And seizure is a possibility. And people do scary things, bite their tongues, aspirate stuff into their lungs, stop breathing. People have heart attacks because of seizures, along with being dehydrated for so long, due to drinking heavily every day and not taking care of themselves. It's a dangerous situation. Yeah. So yeah, spiritually, socially, for yourself, reach out for your own best interest. Definitely seek medical help if you want to detox, because there's safe ways to do it. You said that you would detox at a treatment center.
Yeah.
Right. That's a possibility. Hospital's a possibility. You will find a place. Seek and you shall find. Reach out. You'll find your place.
There you go.
Yep.
So I want to say thank you so much again for coming on the podcast. I really appreciate you doing this.
All right. You're very welcome. Always happy to talk about recovery. And great show, man. Thanks a lot.
All right. Thanks. So do me a favor and hang tight.
All right.
And for everybody watching and listening, if you like what you saw and heard, go below and give us a like. Also subscribe so you can see when we upload new videos. We're on all social media, so you can check us out on Twitter, Reddit, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. You name it, we're most likely on it. I also suggest checking out our website. That is www.addicts-anonymous.com. There you'll find plenty of free resources as well as free literature. So that's all we have for today. I really hope you enjoyed the interview. And until next time.